Welcome to Beyond Incredible. I'm Ashley Nicole, and this is my co-host,
Shay Rachelle.
And we're here today with Enver Villamizar to talk about the municipal elections. How's it going, Enver?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having
This
me
is your
back.
third time on our show.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
We're always talking about fun stuff like elections and the school board and stuff like that. We were actually just talking. We're going to have Enver come on another time and talk about something entirely different.
Yes.
Can't tell you what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be a surprise.
I don't even know what it is yet.
Exactly. Good surprises, right? So, Enver, what are the elections on October 27th about?
So they're being held across Ontario. They're the municipal and trustee elections. So it's elections for the city council.
Yes.
As well as school boards. And they're happening, as I said, everywhere in Ontario at the same time.
Okay.
So obviously if you've been driving around Windsor, the county, you've seen tons of signs.
So they're for
and
the
stuff.
school board, though? Like, what part of the school board are they for?
So the school board itself, the board that oversees the school, it's for trustees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so these are the people that are supposed to be the link with the community and the school system.
Yes,
So
now I keep getting these letters in the mail home within a school, and I just keep ignoring them. I think it's for the PTA or something like that, so I keep sloughing it off.
Yeah.
So that's for, so every school usually has a parent-teacher association, and that association kind of links up with the trustees, and that's the link between an individual school, the community, and the decision-making about school policy and that kind of thing.
Perfect.
What are we pushing for, by the way? Like, I'm curious to know. I haven't been around the school boards or anything for a while, so what is everybody wanting to vote for to change?
Some of the big issues I'd say in this election, in the school boards, it's kind of hard. School closures are a big issue now because the number of students is dropping.
Absolutely.
And in other cases, schools are kind of out of date and need renovations. How school closures take place and which school closures take place are obviously a big issue.
Well, that's all based on a vote too, though, right? Because I know that they just transferred some students. They started off at the beginning of the year, and then all of a sudden a school had to close, and then more students had to go to the school that my daughter is in, and then classrooms had to get switched around. It's just a big confusion at the beginning of the school year, you know?
Yeah. For sure.
So.
And the school board's the one that they have a process to decide how they close schools, so it's very important that you have trustees that are really associated with the parents and community so that the parents and community know what's going on and they have a voice. Otherwise, they just feel like they're being told this is happening and you have no say. So,
yeah, exactly.
So those are pretty important positions.
Exactly. Okay. Now, what do municipalities do and why are they important?
Okay, we've got some slides.
Oh, the slides again.
The slides.
Good old slides. You got this, Alejandro?
So we'll go to slide number, I think it's number 3.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go, 3.
Let's go to number... Okay, so first of all, these are the 3 levels of government in Canada.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Federal, provincial, municipal. Last time when we were talking, it was about the provincial elections. So now we're at the municipal level.
I can't wait until federal comes around.
That's 2015.
Yeah, I know, that's next year.
It's going to be a big one.
Let's get on this.
For sure.
We'll have to do an hour show for that one.
Sounds good. Alex, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So municipalities are technically under the province. So they have their own powers, but it's the province that gives them or takes those powers away, right? So in the city, as I said, there's 2 main bodies, the city or town council and then the school boards. The city council elects councillors and a mayor for every city, and then the school boards represent trustees. It's not like the provincial or federal level where it's party-based. Parties don't participate as parties. The parties are involved, having their candidates to try to, get to be known in the community, but it's not based on parties, right?
Yeah.
It's individuals are supposed to be individuals who run based on, and get elected based on who they are. So we'll go to the next slide, Alex. One more after that. Okay, so city councils are responsible for police, fire, roads and sewers.
Well, they're doing a damn good job at that.
Yeah, planning and development of land. So that's like deciding if a land should be used for commercial use or residential. So that's a big issue.
Or a parking lot.
Or
We
parking
have
lot.
a lot of parking lots.
Yep. Electricity, and in some places in Ontario, the municipality actually is responsible for gas and phone, as well as parks.
Okay.
Right? So those are kind of some of the areas that they oversee and have control over, and those are
Wow,
public
I
services.
think that they're missing a lot of those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, there's a big issue right
I'll give
now.
them that.
There's a big issue right now, which is privatization of public services. So municipalities are kind of being downloaded upon, which means that governments are saying you pay for more. Higher governments are saying you pay for more. We're not going to provide you the funding.
Yeah.
So they're under pressure to either contract those services out to a private company, so it's cheaper, or what they say is cheaper, or to straight give them to a private corporation to run or not do them anymore. So that's a big issue in this election. That should the municipalities contract things out to the private sector or keep them in public hands?
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what is the school board and what does it do?
So I guess beyond what we've already talked about, the important thing the school board does is it's the democratic local decision making over your kids' education, right?
Okay.
So it's supposed to be the way that democracy is linked from you as a parent and your kids to oversee what the education system is going to be like. So it doesn't just come from the top, that you have some back and forth between people and the content of what, not necessarily the content of what they study, but the policies the school board adopts, and you have a place to vent complaints and that kind of thing. So
yes.
obviously for us as teachers and education workers, it's important because the school board is our employer, but we're also parents, we're also electors as well. So it's that much more important for us.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are the issues, some of the issues with this election coming up?
So the one big one I talked about was privatization and downloading. So governments, I'll give you an example. So the provincial government is responsible for workers who get injured on the job.
Okay.
So part of their austerity agenda, which is to take out money from public services to pay the debt and deficit or give out incentives, they've been kicking a lot of injured workers off of compensation through the compensation system by saying, oh, you were really injured on the job. You had a pre-existing condition.
They
Your
just
back
did that with
already
my
hurt."
friend. They just did that with my friend. That's so odd that you said that, because he got injured on the job, and then he went for his MRIs and everything like that, and then all of a sudden they said, oh, well, you have arthritis in your neck. And he's like, that's not my problem. My problem is my hip, not my neck. So they kicked him off. Won't give it to him anymore. He has to pay back all of that money.
Okay.
Yeah, because he wasn't injured on the job when he was in fact injured on the job. So
this is one of the issues, for example. So the province is doing this to basically save money, but the money that workers pay into compensation is supposed to be there for them if they get injured, right? Because they work and the company is supposed to pay that. So instead of making the companies pay their fair share, they're just kicking people off. So what happens is people like your friend and others then may have to go on social services.
Yes.
So then the municipalities, the local government, are having to make up for the fact that these workers aren't being covered by the companies that should be covering it, and the municipalities have to make up for it. So they may have to provide welfare, those types of programs, when it should be covered by these programs that the government is supposed to make sure they're for them.
Right.
So municipalities are under a big pressure. That's one example, but in many ways where they're either supposed to just say, well, we have less funds, so cut.
Right.
And what we're saying, I mean, as a union and the labor movement in general, is that we need school boards and city councils that stand up for their constituents. They don't just accept that that's the only way it should be, that they should say, no, that this is unacceptable, that you shouldn't be downloading these things because these people have rights.
Right.
And to put them onto us, and then if we don't have the money, force us to cut them off, isn't the way to go. So for us, that's a big issue in the election, is we want to make sure there's a city council and a school board that takes a stand. They're not just rubber stamps for the government.
Yeah.
That they have their own opinions and they actually defend their constituents.
Yeah, now people getting hurt on the job, are we talking about union workers or non-union?
Everybody.
Because they always say union workers are protected.
No, not at all. Actually,
Yeah.
I have an example of a union worker that's not protected. Somebody that I know in Toronto. They're supposed to have, union workers are supposed to have coffee trucks, so like iron workers and stuff like that. They're supposed to be a coffee truck on site.
Okay.
Well, this person had to travel 5 to 10 feet off of the work site in Toronto too. So everything's pretty close. 5 to 10 feet away to a coffee shop. Now, this coffee shop was so busy because of all the workers going in. They didn't have a sign up saying that the floors were slippery. He slipped, fractured his spine. He was out of work for about 6 months. Workers' compensation did not help, and he is a union worker. He works for the Iron Workers Union, which is one of the top unions in
Construction.
In construction, right?
Yeah.
So workers' compensation did not cover it. He had to go to a lawyer to sue. That didn't even work. He had unemployment, which only lasted for, because it was short term, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you get short-term disability or unemployment, it doesn't last for long.
No.
Especially if it's an emergency, then you have to wait for another 6 weeks to get approved by the other unemployment. Now, meanwhile, this person has kids to pay for, rent to pay
Yeah.
for, food to buy, and he's sitting there with basically his thumb up his ass,
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen. So
Pretty
no,
much, right?
union workers are not technically taken care of. They're not technically
Yeah.
protected. You know, they get treated just as everyone else does.
That's terrible.
So,
Yeah.
you know, the unions are, the unions are unions. That's all I have to say with that.
Interesting.
Sorry.
I was curious about that. Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
know.
And the thing is, people like that, they're the ones who then get put on social assistance and other
Exactly,
stuff,
exactly.
then-
And it's fortunate that he had a girlfriend that works
Yep.
and stuff like that, because if it wasn't for her, then he would not be
Yep.
living. He would have had to probably move in with his sorry,
Yeah.
I can't speak family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family and parents together, like his family, you know, he
Yeah.
would have had to have been taken care of. And,
Right.
and that's in Toronto. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's, you know,
Well,
when,
students too, like if students, for example, are in huge debt for going to school,
Yeah.
and then they end up, you know, having to go on social assistance and stuff. So because the province has raised the cost of tuition and allowed universities to do that, then the municipality has to then make up those social services that are there because the cost of education is so high. So
Right.
all these things are putting real pressure on the municipalities.
Mm.
And it's a big problem that a lot of them are just saying, well, our job isn't to stand up for our constituents, it's just to say implement it. So if we're going to have to cut this service, let's cut it. If we're going to privatize this one, let's privatize it. And we don't think that's a solution.
no. So you don't think that's a solution then?
No, I think it's going to make things worse, because the more they cut people off, the more you have people in a very vulnerable situation.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
their rights aren't really recognized, and it's just going to make the situation socially worse. And then privatizing is a whole other issue, because you're basically putting public services in private hands.
Okay.
So you're putting programs that are supposed to be there for the public under the control of a private interest that can decide to do them in the way that they want or not.
Right.
Wow.
And that even though it may be cheaper, it doesn't mean it's going to be in the public interest necessarily. Because in the long run, not only will it be more expensive, but, you know, take for example utilities, like the electricity system.
Wow.
When you have
Yeah.
ice storms and
Yeah.
things, if you don't have a public system that works as a system where you can send people to different areas from different cities and really organize it publicly,
Yeah.
some private provider could just say, you know what, we're just going to do our area. We don't have enough money this year, so we're not going to clean
Wow,
those
so
those
scary.
things, right? So you need certain things in public hands and very strong publicly, so that then when there is crisis and emergencies, the public is able to look out for itself.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be a catastrophe.
Oh, I remember last winter, pipes freezing. I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
And
That
in Toronto,
didn't
right,
happen
there was
in my
huge
house.
there was huge shutdowns of the electricity. and stuff
Yeah,
like
because
that.
of the ice storms.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I was getting pictures sent to me from Toronto of ice on branches and ice
Yep.
on cars and
Jeez.
branches falling, and
Yeah.
and you know, it was cold here, but it's nothing I can't handle. I live up north,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
everyone's complaining about the cold, and I'm like, I got my mittens,
fine.
I got my
Yeah.
hat, I got my scarf, I got
Right,
my snow boots.
right.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
And those guys, the utilities workers, which is one of the things the municipalities, a lot of them have, those guys had to work like 20-hour days, no sleep. While it was Christmas time, right? And everyone was spending time with their family. They couldn't.
Yeah.
They had to get sent to different
Even the
areas.
people who worked for the train stations, the train tracks and stuff like that, they had to be out on the tracks, clearing the snow,
Yep.
making sure everything was okay, because there's
Yeah.
shipments going back and forth on
Right.
train. You know, you can't have that stalled,
Yep.
because you know. So
Right.
everybody who works in those kind of places,
Everybody
they're
needs to do their
overworking.
job, yeah.
Overworking. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about everyone holding the tax on lines, holding the line on taxes. Sorry. What do you think of this?
Yeah, so that's been one of the big debates in the election. Everyone's saying that we'll hold the line on taxes.
Okay.
And
What does that mean
just gonna
exactly?
say.
What does hold the line on taxes mean?
Right, so from what they say, it's kind of, it depends who you ask, but I think what they mean by it is that they're not going to raise taxes for the residents, they say, right?
Above that line.
Above a certain line. They're going to hold the line, they're not going to raise them. So it's interesting, like I'll give you an example. So I used to take my daughter to Waterworld downtown, right? And I think it was $5 to go, really nice place.
Yes.
So now they've opened up this new Adventure Bay place. They closed Waterworld. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place, right?
Right.
$15, I think it is, to go in.
Yep. For kids.
For kids. So
Oh, really?
even though they say that they haven't raised the
Parking's not
taxes,
free.
they've downloaded the costs of things onto individuals
Yep.
in that way, other user fees and things. So this talk about holding the line on taxes is a bit of a diversion, because on one hand it's just someone's paying for it.
Yeah.
It's just being
Yeah.
paid for by the individuals directly versus through the tax system.
Yeah.
Right? And in this case it's, you know, if I want to take my family for $15 per person, so that's like if 3 people, that's $45 to
Yeah,
go
instead
swimming
of
for
the
the day rather
$15
than, you
for
know.
3 people.
Exactly. So I think it's a bit of a diversion. The other thing is that a lot of companies are getting pretty big tax breaks. They're getting their taxes reduced as incentives to get them to come to Windsor or stay in Windsor.
True.
So that line isn't being held, it's actually being lowered.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and what's paying for that? Someone has to pay for that drop in taxes, and it's usually made up in user fees or worse service, whether it's privatizing out services or, getting your tree trimmed. If you need to get a tree trimmed because it's going to fall on your lawn and you have to wait a year for it,
Or do it yourself, and that's
exactly.
right? Like,
That's dangerous
Exactly.
unless you have the proper things.
So I think the whole line on taxes is to make people think I won't raise your costs, but in the end it's not true, because
lying once again.
if
right?
you don't, if you're going to keep the taxes where they are, that's fine, but then you're forcing the costs in other ways onto people.
Absolutely.
And then taking the costs off of a lot of the big companies by just giving them millions of dollars in incentives to stay or to, or to come to this area.
Okay, perfect.
Wow.
So voting is on October 27th. That's Monday. Where are the voting stations?
So
Are they usually in schools?
a lot of them are in community centers, city community centers. You can go to the City of Windsor's website. If you're in Windsor, every municipality will have on their website locations for how to vote. You should have already received a voter information card.
I haven't.
If you haven't received it, you can go to the poll where you're supposed to vote, and you can find that on the city's website. You just type in your address and it'll tell you. You just show up with a piece of ID and you fill out a form, and then you should be able to vote there. So even if you haven't received that form, you should still be able to vote. If you're in the county, some places we're doing mail-in ballots or internet voting. So you should go to the municipality where you live and check out their website. But for either of you, if you want to go and vote, just find out where your poll is and show up with some ID, and you should be able to vote. And try to get friends and family to go with you, just to increase the turnout and actually have.
Absolutely, because a lot of people aren't voting. They complain, but they do not vote.
For sure.
It's like you can't make a difference unless you go and do something about it.
Yeah. And usually low voter turnout favors the status quo, whereas when turnout is high, it means people want to change. So by getting the higher turnout, you're more likely to see a change in the way things go if you don't think it's working well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for being on our show.
No problem.
I'm definitely going to go out and vote. How about you?
I do my best. Yeah.
It's all good.
15 minutes?
I don't.
But anyway, tell everybody about your shirt, because I'm like, I
Okay,
love the
so
color
this is our. So I'm part of OSSTF, Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, and we have a district made up of all our smaller bargaining units.
Right.
So the D stands for district, and we're District 9.
it.
Every
But it's
district
a
across
Detroit
Ontario.
Tiger shirt.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually, it is. It's
Old school
a
D.
calligraphic D, right? So my
Yeah.
elementary school, Dougal, actually had this same D and stuff. So I'm pretty partial to it. I like the D.
Me too.
But yeah, this
You
is
like the D?
I
color. The
always wanted
colors.
the D tattoo. I like that. I've always liked it.
The colors are synonymous with the Detroit Tigers, obviously, and
It's cool.
but yeah, it's a
we
hot
have-
item.
Shay says
It's a
I
hot
always
item.
liked the D.
Listen, look,
She
that
would
is
say
such
that.
a
Do you
joke.
hear that, Rob? I know you're watching this. Do
No,
you
stop
hear that?
it is such a joke. Like
Just like the
there's a
white
thing-
meat, come
listen,
on.
like everybody says, I love the D, and I'm just like, oh, that's kind of funny, but that's what everybody says.
You just said it.
Well, it's true. That's,
And then
that's
the white meat.
tagline for Detroit.
I only like white meat, she says.
and I like the
only
white
like
meat.
white
I was
meat.
talking about turkey, but you know,
This
the
girl
other-
says
the
things.
other
It
meaning is
sounds
fine,
dirty.
too.
It sounds dirty all the time.
I will not admit to it. There's
Another
a halo above me.
another episode of
There's
Beyond
a halo.
Incredible gone dirty
I hope that's
because
not
of
the
Shay
crazy episode
Rachelle.
I'm going to be on.
No.
I plead the fifth. That's
I'm
all I
sorry?
have to say.
What about blonde meat?
Blonde mint?
Blonde meat.
Yeah, blonde.
Blonde meat?
I like brunettes, so
Brunette meat?
yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're going to wrap this show up on that note. Thank you for being on. Everybody get out and
Thanks
vote.
for
It's
having
October
me.
27th. Make sure you go on the website, check out where you can vote. If you're not from Windsor or Canada, thank you for tuning in to another episode of
thank you.
Beyond
Do we
Incredible.
have international subscribers? And
We've got
I
like
hope so. Hi guys.
Can I just add one thing? If you
Yeah.
want to check out OSSTF9.ca, we've got a lot more information there about voting, and it also has who we're endorsing for the elections, what
Right,
people can
perfect.
consider if they'd like, but it's OSSTF9.ca.
OSSTF9.ca.
Yeah.
So check that out, people. And thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for tuning in. We will see you all next. Oh no, we will not see you next weekend. We'll see you the weekend after that.
People are really gonna miss us, hey? Like we've been.
I'm gonna go away. I'm going on a spiritual retreat.
Sweet.
Yeah, I
wanna
get
go
to
a
see a good
spiritual
friend.
retreat
So you'll float back.
to Hawaii.
I will float back. I get really tired after these, but I do float. I get really in tune with a lot. I love it.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Amazing. So everybody have a wonderful, safe weekend and
Yes.
safe Halloween. Make sure
I
that
was
you
gonna
check
say.
your kids candy if you
Yeah.
have kids.
Please,
Make sure you
yeah.
check it before you let them eat their candy.
Yeah, I've seen something, so definitely don't think it can
I haven't
happen.
seen anything, but I
Yeah.
hope to never see anything.
Yeah.
And on that note, have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Bye.
Bye.